teams walk away with a greater understanding of what we're trying to accomplish here with this program and how your district would be able to participate. By way of introduction, my name is John Shanamonico. I'm the Director of Special Projects here at the department. I'm joined by my colleagues, Charlie Kenyon and Ellen Stoltz, who you will be hearing from later this afternoon. We are going to record this meeting, and it's going to be posted on the CSDE High Dosage Tutoring webpage. We are also holding an identical version of this webinar in 2 weeks on July 13th. For any individuals or colleagues of yours that maybe missed today and wanted to attend another virtual live session. So that will be held on July 13th, and you can register for that in the notice that we sent out to superintendents earlier. Here's our agenda for today. In a minute, we'll provide you all with the motivations for why CSDE is embarking on this high dosage tutoring program, why we're investing $10 million of our ARP-ESSER state set-aside funding in high dosage tutoring, how we're structuring the program for LEAs, and importantly, what supports, in addition to grant funding, we are going to be providing any district that chooses to participate and is selected for participation. So today we're going to discuss the grant application process, including how we will score applications and the timeline for making decisions. And at the end, we will be sure to leave time for questions. I will also note that on our high dosage tutoring webpage, you will find a document. It's called our application overview document that discusses the application questions. It showcases the rubric. It goes into much more detail around the application and I think provides everything you will need to know to put forward a successful application. So we strongly encourage you to also review that before submitting your application package in Qualtrics. So this is just an overview, and then you can get more detail in that application overview document. Before we jump into it, I just wanted to gently remind everyone that this webinar is primarily for Connecticut public school district leaders who are interested in starting a high dosage tutoring program in their middle or for middle schools or ninth grade students in a high school. If you are on this call but do not represent a public school district, we still welcome you. Well, thanks for being here. But our priority today in these slides and in the chat box function where you can submit questions at any time, we'll be taking questions from LEAs and ensuring that they become familiarized with this grant application. Okay. So why are we considering a statewide high dosage tutoring plan on top of all the other programs that are being run out of the department as well as in your individual districts? For one, we know that students have made gains in the last 2 years since we were predominantly in a remote learning model, but safe to say that there's more that can be done for students and more that can be done for students, especially who learn best in individualized instruction. So first, we are seeing that high dosage tutoring has a significant body of research behind it. It is one of the most cost-effective interventions that has ever been evaluated by rigorous academic research. It can produce learning gains as high as 1 to 2 years in math and reductions in failure rates by more than 50%, which when implemented in accordance with best practices can have sizable gains for students. Second, we at the department committed to explore HDT in our ARP-ESSER plan. That's what we've been doing. This team has been doing over the last year and a half. As some of you know, our plan was recognized as one of the best for expanding equity in our education system, and tutoring is one of the reasons why. Whereas wealthier families can afford private tutoring, we aim to level the playing field for all students who are behind and unable to afford private tutoring by providing them with this grant program. Third, this has become a national issue. President Biden discussed it in his State of the Union address last year. The U.S. Department of Education continues to urge states to use their ESSER dollars to bring in supports and capacity and individuals who can help them with high dosage tutoring. And many, many states have followed students, including Connecticut. And then finally, we're seeing that there are many nonprofit organizations and many private organizations that are eager to get behind this as well. For example, and for part of this program, Connecticut, the Department of Ed has identified 16 organizations whose sole mission is to recruit, train, and place high quality tutors in schools on a virtual basis, but also on an in-person basis, who can add additional capacity and extra talent and help students with accelerating learning. We're going to discuss some of those organizations later in the call and how you can learn more about them, but know for right now that we are adding this as an extra layer of support for schools. And then before I turn it over to my colleagues, I just wanted to describe what the vision is here and what we're hoping to accomplish with this program. So our vision right here is to implement a research-based high-dosage tutoring model in Connecticut to accelerate math recovery for priority students by providing competitive grant funding and support to successful LEA applicants as early as October 2023 through January 2025. Let me just emphasize the points here that are underlined. Number one, it's research-based. As I mentioned, we've constructed this to be in line with what a growing body of literature has deemed to be very, very effective. Things like what's the right student to tutor ratio, what subject matter should be served, when should instruction be provided. Second, we want this to be focused on priority students. And by priority students, we're talking about really 4 groups of students here. One, students who scored below proficiency on last year's Smarter Balance assessment. 2, students who are identified as homeless. 3, students who are identified as high needs in the state. And 4, students who have been chronically absent during the last 2 school years. As I mentioned, this is a competitive grant program, so it is open to all districts, but only the highest quality applications will receive funding. And then for the timing bit, we are in obviously June of 2023, and if you've done this work before, you know it takes a long time, or it can take a lot of effort to stand up. We are aiming to notify LEAs that apply by the September 1st deadline of their decision by October. And so for most schools during that fall period, this upcoming fall period is when planning is going to occur. Some LEAs might be ready by October of this year to get going, either because they're a smaller district and they can move more quickly, or because they have an existing high dosage tutoring program in place. And now they're going to use this program to expand or enhance it. And that's great. We don't want to hinder those districts at all. But for most districts, this upcoming fall semester is going to be one of planning and thinking and getting ready to implement this really, really well. And so we are asking for a start date no later than January 2024 for this to be up and running. And we'll talk more about those deadlines and time at the end of this presentation. And then under current federal guidelines, the ARP ESSER funding that we have available can be spent up until early 2025. So that gives us at least a year to be able to spend, for some districts about a year and a half. And then our outcomes, the things that we're hoping to measure our success by. One is that for students in middle school, if this is a program that you want to target for math, middle school math students, 6 to 8, that 100 of them that participate in the program will meet their growth goals on the Smarter Balance assessment. If you're going to focus on grade 9, that those students will earn a grade of B or better in their math coursework. Second, we're going to be looking at talent and how this program might be able to attract more talent to the education profession here in Connecticut. And we'd love to see that educator pipeline expand by possibly creating more in-person positions. And then finally, if we can show demonstrable improvements in achievement levels for the subset of students that are receiving this service, this program, we'd like to see that LEAs continue to run this into the future with other sources of funding. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Charlie, now, who is going to delve deeper into what the program guardrails look like and how we intend for this program to be implemented in schools.
Thank you, John. So yeah, I just wanted to speak a little bit more to some of what these research-backed guardrails entail. And as you're working on your applications, you're going to want to speak to each aspect of this, right? And so hopefully, by talking through them here today, it will help give you a bit of an idea of what we're looking for. But as John mentioned earlier, we do go into much greater detail on each of these points in the overview document on the High Dosage Tutoring webpage. Um, so a really important aspect of this program is that there's a champion within your school or your district who is coordinating the time and the efforts and really doing a lot of the administrative duties to make sure that this program is being run effectively. I'll speak to it in the next slide, but you'll also be able to use some of the funds to help support that individual in those efforts. Now, obviously, high quality tutors are going to be the backbone of this program. So in that vein, we have identified and vetted 16 vendors. So we had a fairly rigorous application process, and a team worked through the many applications that we got, and we've chosen 16 vendors that we think are going to provide high quality services to the state of Connecticut and provide enough of a robust network to ensure we have enough tutors across the state to support as many districts that are interested in applying for this program. Now, for those LEAs that already have staff involved with tutoring on the ground, you are also more than welcome to use these funds to support your local staff to implement the high dosage tutoring model as well. Now, for this particular program, we've chosen to focus and target it on math. Math is one of the subjects where high dosage tutoring can see some significant gains, and we really wanted to focus this program and hone it on this one particular subject for the time being. So we really chose grades 6 through 9 in it as well to focus on students who are falling behind in that area. Now, what sets high dosage tutoring apart from other types of tutoring is that it is frequent and that there's at least 30 minutes to each session. So in your application and as you are developing your program, you're going to want to think about how these tutoring sessions can occur at least 3 times a week for a minimum of 30 minutes. Of course, it can occur more, but the research really does show that the more targeted and the more frequent the sessions are, the better and the more impactful the gains will be. There is also a maximum tutor to student ratio of 1 to 4. All of our tutoring providers we vetted to ensure that they could provide this specific tutor to student ratio. And really that, it can be 1 to 1, it can be 1 to 2, 1 to 3, but really anything more than 1 to 4 starts to delve more into small group instruction and gets a little bit away from that high targeted individual specialized support that we're hoping to see from this program. Now, in regards to the curriculum, you can choose to, use your own local curriculum aligned to the Connecticut Core Math Standards and work with either your local tutors or with the tutoring organizations to ensure that this curriculum is being implemented across the HDT program. Or some of our vendors also have their own HDT curriculum models as well, and you can choose to use those as well. So really depending on your own context and whatever will work best for you, we encourage you to do that. And then lastly, in terms of timing and delivery, the research really shows that the best time and the best method for HDT is going to be during the school day and in person, right? So that's really what we strongly encourage to happen. But we also recognize that there is a shortage of staff able to provide these tutoring services, and we hope that the vendors that we've identified will help to fill that gap. And to that vein, virtual tutoring within the body of research can be effective as well. And really, it has to take place during the school day. Virtual tutoring before or after the school day has not been proven to be effective through the research. And so we are going to strongly discourage LEAs from submitting that sort of time frame in that model within the application. And you can also do in-person tutoring before or after the school day. And so we're hoping that this sort of framework for when and how to deliver HDT will be helpful as you're planning your school calendars, as you're talking to various vendors to see how their tutoring models and what they can provide could fit into what the research shows is the most effective mode and method of high dosage tutoring. And I will also note that, we recognize there are going to be challenges with, calendars and the structure of all of this. And really the most important thing is that it is recurring, right? That students are meeting regularly with tutors with that frequency that I mentioned earlier, because that's really going to lead to some of the best gains. Next slide, please. So how will the Department of Education support implementation of the high dosage tutoring program? So first, through grant funding, right? Through the competitive grant application process, grants of up to $2,500 per student per year will be awarded through January 30th, 2025. Now, you may already be aware, but as not just for this program, but for all grants, we're moving to a reimbursement basis only. And so you should keep that in mind as you are applying for this grant. If you do have additional questions, you can reach out to us, to the fiscal office as well. We know this is a change for not just this program, but for all grants. Now, the second method where we're going to be supporting implementation is through high quality tutors. As I mentioned, we've gone through and vetted 16 organizations to source, train, and manage tutors for schools. So that list is available on the HDT website. There is a one-page profile of every single organization. We've broken it up into, and I'll speak to them in a few moments as well, but we've broken them up into in-person and virtual and hybrid supports. And so we hope that those materials will help you as you think about your staffing needs for the upcoming school year and for supporting this program. And you can also use the funds from the grant to support your own district-based staff if you would choose to go that route as well. Now, lastly, we're also planning to have a community of practice and coaching. And so we are currently in the process of contracting with a vetted organization to lead a community of practice for LEA, HDT program leaders, school leaders, and other staff, right? This is to help guide scheduling, family engagement, how you're using data, how you're implementing the program. And really, we envision this as sort of like a monthly support group where you're able to learn from your other peers across the state and how they're implementing, perhaps share learning, some positives, maybe some growth pains, and learn from each other as you begin to implement this program. And so we're really excited about this community of practice, and we really think that it will be a great aspect of this program to support everyone who decides to implement HDT. Next slide, please. So for the eligible uses of grant funding, LEAs you have a variety of categories which you can use to support through existing ARPESSER funds. So I'm just going to go through them. This is also available on the application document. But basically you can use it to contract with one of the 16 third-party tutoring organizations and manage a cadre of tutors. These tutors are going to be potentially retired teachers, paraprofessionals, AmeriCorps community members, et cetera, to ensure that staffing needs are complete. I should note that the funds can only be used for the 16 vetted organizations. So if you're already working with an organization that provides tutoring services that is not included in this list, you would not be able to put this specific grant money towards that organization. You can also use the grant money to provide stipends to existing school-based tutors and educators who are responsible for providing services directly to students, right? So that's if you choose to use your own staff as tutors, you can provide stipends to them. You can also use the funds to hire and provide a stipend to a district or school level personnel who's overseeing the administrative roles, right? So that really gets back to the LEA champion that I mentioned as one of the program guardrails. So you can use funds to ensure that this individual is compensated for the effort that they'll need to put in to ensure that this program is successful. You can also use it for supporting and procuring any necessary curriculum, assessments, materials, hardware, and software to facilitate tutoring. You can use it to provide stipends to existing LEA or school level personnel to serve as mentors and coaches for tutorers, right? So maybe you want to provide some additional guidance to the actual tutors, and maybe you have some staff members who are really excellent at tutoring and you want them to provide some mentoring sessions, you can use the funds to provide them stipends for their guidance there as well. You can also use the funds for initial and ongoing training, coaching, professional development for tutors as needed, and for covering the cost of rent for a larger facility or more space in order to expand high dosage tutoring. So really a wide variety of funds that we or of possibilities that we think will be necessary for the successful implementation of this program. Now, the 16 vetted vendors are broken down on our website into in-person and virtual organizations, which you see here on the left. So there are 6 organizations that can provide these either or service. And then there are 10 organizations that can provide virtual tutors only. And so all of these organizations had to submit a lengthy application. They were vetted by our team, and we really believe that they're going to be able to strongly support LEAs in implementing HDT. And so we encourage you to check out we have a 17-page document. Each of these companies has a one-pager listing an overview of their company or their organization, the services they provide, how they source their tutors, what they can provide to LEAs, contact information for who to reach out to for the HDT program. And many organizations have also included additional data or flyers that you can learn more about their organization. And so I highly encourage you all to check those out. You are welcome to reach out to any of these organizations now. I do want to note that entering into a contract before you receive notice of the award of the grant does not guarantee that you will receive the grant. So just want to caution against potentially signing any contracts before you know that you have been accepted into this competitive grant program. Now, you do not need to use one of these vendors. You can also use your own staff, as I've mentioned before. So we want to make that abundantly clear. And we are also thinking of ways that we can connect you all to some of these organizations a little bit more intimately as well as the summer goes on. So stay tuned for that as well. Next slide, please. And I think I will turn it over to my colleague, Ellen.
Thank you, Charlie. Good afternoon, everybody. Of course, just like anything, we want to ensure that we have a succinct and concise process to score each application, especially considering the competitive nature. So just like any good educators, we have a rubric, and that rubric is actually designed so that we can simplify and have a very straightforward way of not only assembling the application as we have done to make it a little simpler for districts, but also so that you're very aware of what we're looking for in that competitive application. So the 4 main domains are the rubrics indicators that are listed here. Of course, it is need-based. As John stated, we're looking at the need within and across all districts. And so that really will be weighted accordingly to the population that you're targeting for this grant and this particular instructional model. We're also, and it may seem redundant to you, but we're also very mindful that high dosage tutoring for math specifically shows, as you've heard already, evidence that it's very effective when done according to the constraints and structure of high dosage tutoring. So we are not only looking at providing you the vendors who have successfully showcased their ability to align to the HDT model, but also we have it as a redundancy, but also to ensure that there is alignment within our rubric. So in looking at that rubric, the elements, the program guardrails that Charlie showed with you earlier and spoke to each one of those bullets, that's what we're looking for. So keep it simple, keep it aligned, and that will help you in the long run. Obviously, just like any kind of instructional-based program, we're always looking for involvement of our stakeholders. So the ability of your district, as showcased in your application, to be able to communicate with parents, with families, with stakeholders, very important, so that the partnership that you do select with your vetted vendor becomes part of the fabric of your school and or your district. Also, I think this really makes it straightforward is the addition right in the overview document for you to see a sample budget, because the budget has to align with what your plans are for expenditures. Sounds obvious, but we want to make sure that that's coherent. So please, as you're reviewing the overview document, take a look at the sample budget. That should help you to guide what your allocations will look like. Next slide, please. So another slide that's fairly straightforward, as you hopefully have already seen on ct.gov, we've already launched the actual application in Qualtrics that occurred last week, and we will be looking at those that come in fairly regularly. The deadline is September 1st at 5 o'clock. So beyond that, we will not be accepting any more applications. Just again, to keep our message to LEAs succinct and concise. By October 2nd, your LEA will be informed if you are one of the successful districts, but mindful that there will be successful districts that will receive funding through this $10 million grant as part of our ARP-ESSER state plan, but also considering that there will be LEAs who may not receive the funding, but are still interested in participating in the community of practice. So you will be informed after that date. So the span of the grant, as you can see, would be between October 2nd and commencing January of, I think it's January 30th, 2025. So with that, in that time frame, we would anticipate that however your district chooses to implement for a time frame, we're encouraging October. We recognize it may not be until January of 2024, so we would expect that all districts receiving funds through this competitive grant would be ready to implement no later than January 8th, 2024. And that will give you a little bit more than a full year to actually look at what your program can accomplish in that time frame. In addition, the funds can be used for summer learning. So as you're looking ahead to planning summer learning for school year 23-24, it would be 24-25 that you would be able to include summer learning for 2024. So, and I think I already stated, and this is not just for this particular grant, but all ARP-ESSER funds are expected to be expended by January 30th of 2025. If anything changes, we certainly would let you know. So the next steps are, please make sure that you spend time reading the application overview document. It's there on our website. It has a lot of great information, including links, active links to other research information that you may want to reference if it applies to what you want to describe in your needs section. You also want to take a look at the approved vendor list. We spent a lot of detailed attention to ensuring that the vendors selected for you, for our successful applicants, would really align to the model that you will be putting into your own application. And again, we are very mindful that as you select that vendor, you want to make sure that your goals and the goals of the vendor are aligned. So if you already have a school improvement plan, accountability plan, specific goals for your district that you want to focus on, take a look at what the one-pagers are for each one of these vendors. That should help you with alignment and coherence. And just a reminder, complete the HDT application. It is in Qualtrics, and that deadline is September 1st at 5 p.m. Next slide, please.
Okay, I think that brings us to the end, Ellen, of the presentation. So thank you.
Okay.
And thanks you, Charlie. I did want to let you all know we have about 25 minutes left. So Ellen, Charlie, and I will stick around here and answer any questions. The chat box should be open on your end, and we can take them there. We'll also be taking note of the questions that we get in from you all and putting up a frequently asked questions document on our page. We've referenced the CSDE webpage several times, and I did drop it in the chat. We'll drop it again in case you came in late and don't have access to it. But just to double down on what both Charlie and Ellen said, do take a look at the application overview document. Take a look at the one-pagers on each of the vendors that we have compiled for you. And just take some time to absorb all the information that we've put together before sort of jumping into the application planning. We want to make sure that you are as comfortable with the details as possible. With that, why don't we take some questions? It looks like we have one from Tim. The grant period runs for roughly 15 months, yet the funding is listed as $2,500 per year of tutoring per year. Is that $2,500 max, or can you apply for more if you are setting up for all 15 months? Yep. So great question, Tim. I know it's a little bit confusing because some districts won't be starting until the spring semester of next school year, and then they will be likely ending it in the fall semester. So it's off schedule from our traditional school year. But if you are intending to apply for the full year, you can put together a budget for those 15 months, and then we will, if your LEA is selected, we will let you know what your grant award is for that time period.
And John, can I just add a piece that 2,500 is per student per year. So you would submit, how many students you anticipate will be participating in the HDT program, and then, sort of submit your budget based on that as well.
Yep. Thank you, Charlie. Are there any other questions from this group? Thank you, Bob. All right. Seeing none, we'll close out by saying thank you again for being here today. If you do have questions that come after this webinar, you are always welcome to reach out to us. Our emails are included on the CSDE webpage and in the application overview document, so don't hesitate to let us know. Looks like there was a last. Is there a max of 100 students? So there is no maximum number of students that can be served. We have a maximum budget, but we don't have a maximum number of students to serve. So you as an LEA leader will look at how many students fit within those 4 priority categories, how many students you think you can feasibly serve over the next year, year and a half, and put together a budget around that. But we are not capping the number of students per district or even per school. There are different ways you can do it. You can focus on grade bands. You can focus on an entire school setting if that's the priority you want, but there isn't a cap on the number of students. Okay. With that, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everyone, and let us know if any questions come out.